Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. I am the host of Nature's Neighbor podcast show. I will be joined with the co-host that is coming from South County that just informed us that he's stuck on the grade and going to be running here a little late. So you're going to see a person walk by here pretty soon. But this is a live show. You know, some of you might have, listened to us recorded and, past tense, but we do record this show live, which is something rare in the podcast world. But I always want to be spontaneous. We want to come in and just talk about community. Nature's Neighbor is all about understanding. It's not just about, the farmer or the, soil. It's how everything works together and everything in a symbiotic circle. So here we are on a Monday, June 9th, 2025. I always like to put those dates out there, even though social media puts it out there on the day. I just want to just put that out there that we are headed towards the middle of the year already. I cannot believe that we are halfway through the year of 2025 and doing a little recap before Josh gets here in what this year has brought. Definitely a much colder spring than normal. Talking about that because I just did a B class. Miguel is here, running the show here. Miguel is our producer. But Miguel had me on his podcast, Pastorable's podcast, a couple weeks ago with my good friend Gina Hambley. Well, she was here to promote her lavender farm, but we talked about her class that I would be doing. Well, guess what, Miguel? I did it this last Saturday. Super fun. It was a bee class, know how to know your bees, know your soil class out at Hambley Farms. And I'm realizing here we are in June and I'm in San Miguel and I was cold in the morning. San Miguel is known in our county as being a warmer area. Yes, it warmed up, but it only warmed up to 90, which is crazy. Normally in June in San Miguel, it's already hitting the triple digits. So it's a good example of, showing the differences in our temperature. But this is also talking about, knowing that as a farmer, there's going to be something that when you think you know what you're doing, there's going to be moments where the weather is going to show you that if you don't have enough tools in the toolbox, you are going to struggle in understanding what to do next. But as I stand at Gina's farm, Gina Hambley Lavender Farm on Saturday, and I look across her coming of age lavender farm and seeing how early her blooms have come on. So even though we're cooler, some things are struggling to come on because of the cooler weather. Other things are thriving, and lavender is definitely one of them. There's, greens are definitely, but also our animal proteins are thriving. And I'm super excited to be a part of Creston Valley Meats, who is also a sponsor of this show. And Creston Valley Meats is our USDA processing plant here, where we are able to raise healthy animal proteins and have that ability to feed our community with good, wholesome food. So CrestonValleyMeats.com. We're also a full raw pet food line. Talking to Simon today about, understanding. Simon is the owner of Creston Valley Meats, talking about what raw is. There's so many things that all of us have been doing for so many years, and we're starting to realize that things have changed or shifted because we're having to go back and educate to so many new people that are, curious to understanding what does raw really mean. So there's all these claims, there's all these labeling, there's all these marketing terms, but it's crazy to see how we are here in the middle of the year and looking back at the year and what has it brought. I definitely am going to say that this is a year of, reforming, trying to get grounded again in a sense of an idea or a concept. But this is also a year of re-educating. Definitely, I guess, realizing that maybe I started this podcast again, Miguel and I collaborated, reaching out to each other back and forth. I wanted to get Nature's Neighbor back out there because I really was feeling like I was answering the same questions over and over again. But definitely as I'm looking back already at this half year, is realizing how much re-education I've had to do. Learning this at Gina's farm and doing this bee class, and the group of amazing people that were in this class, and the questions that they were asking, the curiosities that they had. And here I've been doing bees since I figured it out. So I started really, working with bees with other beekeepers, but putting my hands in the hive in 2005. And here I'm like, fast forward to 2025 and realizing that there's so many people that used to do bees that are not doing it anymore. There are a very, very small handful of people that are still doing it, or there's a bunch of new people that have come into the industry and that are doing it. So it's definitely changing, and it's definitely doing it. And I got to teach, the difference. Are you a pollinator or are you both? Pollinator and a honey farmer. There's a lot to be said about understanding, where your honey comes from and what nectar sources it was, that fed those bees, that the bees collected that nectar, took it back to the hive to make honey. There's so much to this and so much to this industry that I realized teaching this class that is so unknown. And I'm not sitting here saying that I know it all or what, but I'm realizing just by being a part of it, I'm able to share differences that most people don't even have access to. I mean, I'm standing, on Saturday I'm teaching this class in front of, several people and looking at this lavender farm, talking about bees. As I'm walking out to Gina's farm right before the class started, I went to go pick some lavender for the class, and I'm looking at one of her rows, and it was fascinating to me to realize how many different species of bees there were foraging on that row of lavender. So it's not just one type of bees. Yes, Gina has, a couple hives there that she does farm honey from, but at the same time, there was several other species of bees there that, that were naturally foraging and taking back to their hives, the hives of unknown sources or unknown location. Most native bees don't put their honey above and stack above. Most native bees put their hives in the soil. So, where are we going to find those hives? So understanding, the differences in the species and looking at, here the lavender is early this year. There's things that like local apricots, Central Valley apricots are coming on a couple weeks late, not major late, but here on the Central Coast, our apricots are definitely coming on a lot later than normal. So here, the nectar sources of Gina's lavender farm that is providing to so many different species of bees was incredibly awesome. And then I was able to point that out to people, and then having that discussion with people and realizing there's not just one type of bee. I was, fascinated with the fact that people don't realize that bees, honeybees that we are farming here in California, are not native to California. Most of our species of bees that we are, ranging and managing around here are usually Italian or a Swedish or some type of European queen bee that was brought over here many years ago and farmed and then managed to be able to have honey available, or to be able to have the system of pollination to go out there and pollinate our trees so that we can then have that fruit. This is, a topic that I obviously love and continuously study and learn. And I'm learning from different people, learning from, different beekeepers, and learning that, one system is not necessarily the right system, that everyone has a different system, but that's all working because that's what they're working at. That's what they're learning to, grow from or to build from. And it's exciting to see and super fun to be a part of, to teach, each level and to be able to give that introductory knowledge to curious people. And then what a dream to be able to do it at Gina's farm. But it started, I was super fun to have the podcast recorded. If you go to Past Rebels podcast, you'll see Gina Hambly and I back in May, right? I think it was when we did that podcast. I got to get it shared on my social media because it was kind of fun to do that podcast, talk about where we came from, talk about building that farm, and then her and I together doing this class. I taught the class. It was fun because Gina had taken my introductory to bees class like right before COVID. So I think it was 2019 is when she did my bee class at Nature's Touch Nursery and Harvest. And then having her bring me in to teach her customers about bees, the customers were like super excited about coming and learning. But then when I started teaching, it stimulated even more questions. And I'm like, okay, guys, any questions? Do you understand, what I'm teaching? And then Gina would chime in and then ask questions because even as she is a seasoned beekeeper, because she's been doing it for a while, her and her husband, Milton, they've kind of gotten out of it because they wanted to focus more on growing lavender and doing farm tours with their customers, but they were able to bring questions to that class that most introductory beekeepers wouldn't have known to ask yet. And so she was able to, ask me questions that she was curious that even after doing bees for a while, she's wanted to know. And I was, really putting this concept and, sitting back and reflecting, for the last, 6 months of 2025, this class, what is majority of people, asking, where's farming, headed to, what are we actually doing right now out in the soil? And I'm realizing that, there's so much of us that we all need each other to be able to make things work, to make things, keep moving forward. Definitely learning that, the 6 months into 2025, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear out there. There's a headline again that there's salmonella in eggs in California. Everybody has their own opinions, but, and also most people don't understand, salmonella. Salmonella is prevented in age of food. It's also prevented in the cleanliness of how things are farmed. Salmonella is prevented on how they're handled. There is an argument about cleaning of eggs. The state of California requires certain things for us to be able to legally sell, but it's also a requirement of temperature as well. The California state requires eggs to be stored at a certain temperature. The moment we start changing things and not keeping track of things is when viruses and bacteria like salmonella spread. And when we are relying on food to be traveled and pushed so hard, from so far away, and then it has to be at a certain price on the grocery store shelf, this is what we're getting. And yet we right here in this community have resources of locals that are doing things to keep things clean, to keep things safe, to be able to have the infrastructures that we can do things transparently, open and honest like Creston Valley Meats. There's a lot to this. I am super excited to be able to teach this, be a part of it, be able to answer some of these questions that people have the curiosity for. Where do we go from this next 6 months? I have to tell you, summer solstice is coming in the bee world. We look forward to winter solstice because in the winter solstice of bees, that means that the queen is going to start laying more eggs for more brood. That also in the winter solstice, that means that the The days are going to start getting longer. We're going to start seeing more sunlight, where now as we get closer to the summer solstice, yes, it means that summer is beginning for all of us, right? Because there's those warmer days, those warmer evenings. We don't really notice, but that summer solstice means that the days are going to start getting shorter again. That's the longest day of the year at the summer solstice, right? But then from that point on, it starts to get less sunlight. So we are still not there yet because, June 20th, 21st is where the summer solstice starts. But knowing that, we're in the phase of starting to look at the rescending, we're still in the building. Winter solstice is all rebirth, coming out and being a part of regrowth, right? After summer solstice, it's rescending back in. So, here we come at that summer solstice. I actually start to look forward to when it actually is warmer. It is harder to work in it, but that's also the time that we're supposed to be floating and enjoying this warmer climate. That's when the watermelons and the tomatoes and cucumbers. Oh, by the way, for anybody listening, pickling cucumbers are coming off for any of us that are wanting to pickle cucumbers. I have a beautiful delivery that came to us on Friday, and I have some more coming tomorrow, Tuesday, at Nature's Touch. So if you're into wanting to pickle your cucumbers, it's time. There's some of us that planted in the soil, put a hoop house over it so that we can keep the heat in, and that's how we're able to have them a little earlier. I have to tell you, I like canning and jarring earlier in the season, like June and early July before it gets really hot. And then I like to start doing my canning and jarring again in September, because usually in normal circumstances, it's usually too hot in July and August to really want to be in that kitchen. I want to be outside grilling and growing and picking and eating fresh food. So I'm excited to always pickle and can my early season, and then I always pickle my late and canning and jarring or making jellies and jams in my late season stuff, because it's too hot to do it also in those usually July and August. But who knows? June is definitely giving us a good June gloom. I know, I'm sorry for my listeners that are in the Midwest or Central Valley. They're already hitting triple digits, and I talk about my June gloom or being too cold here in the Central Coast. Well, that's the benefit of living close to the coast. Thank gosh for that fog. I was out doing a little farming yesterday on the farm on Sunday, and I was going, is it going to get warm? And the moment I thought about it, I saw over the mountain the fog sitting there. I'm like, nope, the fog is going to come back in. So super grateful that, we are close enough, but it gets us later in our harvest. Like I said in the beginning, the farm in the Central Valley, they're getting beautiful apricots, beautiful peaches, beautiful nectarines, already grapes. The Central Valley is bringing us over beautiful fruit. Nature's Touch has, all California grown, certified organic and naturally grown fruits and vegetables. And that's what we're getting already. And Nature's Touch. Come on in, Josh. I already warned you guys, he's going to come in hot because he was late coming in over the grade. So here he comes. Look at.
So I don't smell too much.
Oh, and yeah. Well, I came from Creston already, threw on a clean T-shirt and made it my way too. So, that's the life of living like rock stars, also known as business owners,
living
right?
in the woods,
There's your earphones. You're going to start looking like a professional podcaster. There we go. Now you're back to being a podcaster. Hi, Josh.
Put my other hat on. Yeah.
I started the conversation off with, kind of reflecting, here we are, June 9th. We're almost at that halfway point of 2025. I'm categorizing this reflection of backwards as a re-education. I have been feeling like I'm having to really go out and teach a lot. I guess that's why I started this podcast and why you're joining. And we just came off of a really fun last week of doing a pop-up with you By the way,
Was that only a week ago?
that was only.
Lord.
Are you still trying to recover?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I was on the boat for about 18 hours this weekend and getting that salmon season in
That's awesome.
and recouping from that Monday. So and then working in between. So
I kind of threw out that you were stuck in traffic, but it was also because Josh chose to, cut up his fish that he caught over the weekend early and got,
we
got
had to
distracted.
scrub the boat. We had to get things done today. Had to get the crew set and
talk about your fishing trip. Josh went on a fun fishing trip. So talk about it.
This year they finally, let salmon season open for sport fishing in California. So we had about 7,000 fish that could be caught across the state. And it's been at least a couple years that they had opened that. So, those king salmon come in here and they used to fill the creeks and the rivers. And even 100 years ago, in the settler times, there was, easy pickings for men and boys in Churro Creek. Bring a pitchfork and, done a lot of sailhead, trout, and, stream restoration over the years so that we could get these runs again. So it was really nice to go out there and see these beautiful fish and put some on board and bring them home
My grandparents
to share. I brought
used to
you some tonight.
Thank you. My boys are going to be thrilled. My grandparents used to talk about this, right? But my parents didn't. Mm-hmm. I have never seen it coming up these creeks, and I mean, can we? Will we? I think we have a lot to work at to actually see that happen. But you were actually out in the Pacific catching it.
Yeah, we were out there in the water, so not too far out from the rock. And, really was great to be on the ocean again and getting the bounty of the ocean. And so that was some of the stuff we shared last week, along with all the great stuff we have here in the hills like we always talk about. So,
how is it out there? Give it because a lot of us, I choose to not, I'll be honest with you, the Pacific intimidates me. I think maybe in my previous life I might have died in the ocean or something, but you
were a mermaid, you got enough of it.
Oh, maybe that. Hey, I might have been a mermaid. But, I have no desire, I'll be honest with you, to go on a boat on the ocean. My children and my husband love to fish.
Yeah.
And they love, being on a boat in the ocean. I like being on the boat on Nasameno.
There you go.
But I get nervous in the ocean. I love to walk the sand, but the ocean intimidates me. And I don't know why.
We saw whales breaching yesterday. We had, all the great stuff, watching the sunset. And that's why I love surfing and, being in the water in so many ways is you're always in a beautiful place. You're front row for the sunset. It feels great. It's good for you. I need to jump in. I got cuts on every single finger. I mean, we landed a ton of fish, lost a few fish. It's a bit of a battle with the salmon season out there. They go barbless and, you got to pull them up from trolling lines. And
so Shark Week on National Geographic always talks about the Morro Rock being the area of the most angriest white, great white. Did you see any of those out there?
I didn't see, but we used to have a resident we named Freckles that was there for a long time, an 18-foot female.
Oh.
And when I used to lifeguard and I taught junior guards, we would, take them out on paddles. So one time we were paddling around Birdshit Rock with the little 12-year-olds and come back into the harbor office that day. And they're like, oh, the coasties saw the, Freckles off of the surf about 300 yards. So they're out there. There's a guy who has some drone footage in Pismo.
Yeah.
And they're always there. And they've always been there. So, I mean, it's nothing new.
Well, my kids know because my kids go paddleboarding or, our good friends live in Cayucas.
Oh, yeah.
And so my kids go out in Cayucas with them. And so they're, bodyboarding or just playing in their wetsuits out in the waves, right? Our friends surf a little bit, but, it's kind of... They have a resident, they're thinking male because they've only seen the top of him, right? Yeah. I think they said the last time was like 6 foot, so he's young, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of young males that are always cruising around.
They named him Steven, and the reason is because every time that he has his definite markings on his top, right? Yeah. And so every time they're out there, he likes to hit them.
Oh, funny.
And so, whether that be they'll hit the board or hit, their body.
Well, that's close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. So they named him Steven. He's one of them, is what they said. He
Guys
comes and
in the
hangs
gray
out.
suits.
And I'm like, you guys really know, this is, I'm like, if Steven is that confident, his fellow group is probably pretty close too.
Yeah, they don't get to be, too
Social.
ferocious till they're over 14 probably feet. And so, it's just one of many things out there though. Yeah, we saw great feeding. There's so many bait balls out there. We got some mackerels that came on board. They were, part of the catch, and some really great, fish, like I said. And then it's wide open to
So you go
look
out
for
Laurel
halibut,
Bay, you go out the
rock
bay, and then you
cod.
go out in the open water. That's awesome though.
Yeah, no, I love being on the water, like I said. Whenever you can do. You
Yeah.
know, we kayak fish, we poke pole in the tide pools.
I'm
we
the
shore
land
fish.
mammal. You're the one with gills, right?
Marvin Tierra, that's what we call it.
I am, and it's what's fascinating to me is look at me. I can talk about it, and I love to see the diversity of the ocean. Right?
Yeah.
I love kelp. I love my seaweed. I'll eat that. But
Yeah.
I'm not a fish eater, so like when you're gifting
You go
me
lobster
this,
diving, let's go.
well, my boys in Savannah are going to be so excited for the gift that you're going to bring me because my
Yeah.
family love it. I'm just open and honest. I will eat a steak or chicken before I'll eat fish.
Yeah.
And it's just a mental thing.
Yeah, we just ate a lot of some of the monkey face eel. We went poke poling, me and my brothers and nephews, and so we got in there, had some rockfish, fried those up whole, fried some anguilla up, and had some
That's
really
crazy.
great feast this week of seafood. That's what summer means to me, but that's living at the coast and
Yeah.
living down there, and like we said, being good neighbors. We
not
got everything
abusing
from the
it.
land up here that we love too. All the grass fed beef, everything.
Look at all the byproduct too that you created. You're going to eat well and you're going to eat as much, but you also created byproduct that you could put in soil that's going to help.
Yeah.
Fish meal and bone meal. Like
Yeah, it all goes in the compost pile at my friend's farm. So
people don't understand. Like we talk about doing what we're doing. Like I hunt or I have a processing plant, but nothing goes to waste.
Yeah.
We utilize every single part of everything that we do. And there's a lot of negativity that is out there in the media about fishing or about
Really?
processing, but we are here to teach the differences of what it is that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Recognize everything you catch, what it is, and how to eat it.
Well, just scale. Again,
Yeah,
I think if
scale.
we're going to talk about anything that's going to make any difference in our society today, I really believe that having a more human scale to what we do is the answer to so many things. With businesses, you see so many problems when these corporations get so huge.
Yep.
And they become faceless, they become nameless, they sort of, don't really have boundaries. But when it's a human behind something, it's really got a soul to it. And so I think if we have our businesses, more to human scale, we have our food production a more human scale. Because when you have these factory farms, that's when you're running all these problems. We always say in permaculture that edge creates opportunity for participation. So
I was talking a little bit about media too, the salmonella again in eggs, and understanding, the push of the large scale and the push of the transportation of where things are coming from, the requirements of understanding what salmonella is and how it grows and how it spreads and its temperature, and it's not easy to do.
On that
and it's
large of a
like-
scale, you
and
get an outbreak of something
you
like
don't-
that, you're really wiping out an entire
system.
system. There's not a lot of easy recovery.
No, and
And
that's
when they're looking at it with a single bottom line of just what's our, dollars and cents profit here, that's where you probably again have people pushing lines where, they shouldn't be. And so when
Exactly.
you're getting them from your backyard as close as you can as possible with eggs, that you're going to get something really fresh, really healthy, and it's shared, with our neighbors like we did last week. We really just kind of threw a little party in the village there.
So let's go back also too. Let's reflect. Let's talk about that. And we did our podcast at your friend's restaurant. We
Yeah.
did a little pop up. We had
on the scene.
We had Surfs Up Farm hang
Yeah,
out with us.
Surfside Farm, Andy, yeah.
Andy comes and hung out.
And have him take my place. I get in the
James,
kitchen.
who is California Sheepskin, was there to be
Yeah.
a part of it, and he got on the show, and there's a couple other people that kind of were on the outside that we need to definitely have more in, like Jesse
Yeah.
Trace Land. You know,
Yeah, I
I
had
would
so
love to
many
have a conversation with that gentleman.
food stuff just that
he's
week
reached
from
out.
friends of
I
ours.
haven't contacted him back because
Yeah.
last week was kind of that we were at Josh's, and then what happened to Monday went. The
Yeah.
week went by, so we need to reach back out to all these people that were a part of it too on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But also too, it's like, Josh, your food was amazing.
Awesome.
But
Yeah.
there was something that I listened to. I think it was one of my B podcasts that I listened to. They talk about what we do as a business or what we do for our day job, right? You know, where does it work out in our health and our mental status, right? And our mental well-being and what we are doing to make a living, you know, and do we actually really enjoy what we do?
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of funny because what you did on Monday night, I know what you do for a living. You're hands on soil in the ground, creating beautiful landscapes and atmospheres for your clients. And you know plants, you know soils, you know hardscapes like nobody's business. But on your mental time off, like what you did, I mean, yes, you did it to, you know, gather, but it came natural to you. Yes,
Yeah.
it was a little busier than I think you thought.
I tried not to spread the word too much,
Yeah,
but darn
it kind of
it
did.
blew up. I mean,
Yes.
we had 100 people there. I bet. In
Yeah,
a few
and
hours,
it was supposed to
2-3
just
hours.
be a quiet community gathering, but at the same time, you could tell how much, even though you were stressed, you enjoyed it. But also
Yeah.
too, the people you had in your kitchen were close friends,
Yeah.
and people that knew you and
Well, I
that
had my
worked with you.
landscape crew. They by day landscape. We set up the patios in the place that we could serve the dinner on,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they're done with that, one guy went home and got his guitar, and the other 2 guys came and jumped in the kitchen with me. So
And then you had
we
Shawnee.
kept it all in the family.
Shawnee, that was like,
Yeah, good friend
I'm like,
Shawnee.
what
Huge
are you-
shout out to Shawnee again.
What are you doing here? She was like, I don't know. I reached out. He needed help, and I showed up. And I'm like, oh my gosh! And that's what I'm like.
Community came together. We got
it
food from our
totally
friend's
did.
farm stand. We got produce from everyone local. The neighbor bakery.
Okay, so your tomato spread on
The toast
on
from
the
Wayward
toast.
Breaking,
Oh,
yeah.
he's an amazing baker.
Yeah,
by the way.
really
I
good
saw
food.
him walk in. Miguel and I were sitting eating. I saw him walk in. I know him. We met when he first came back to this community.
Sure, back to town.
Yeah, and I'm like. And he's Oso, so I don't get
Yeah,
to see him as
yeah.
often. But I got to eat his bread, and I was like, "Oh yes, this was good." And then
Yeah.
what did Miguel got? What did you get? I forget. I ate mine and his.
Nice.
You
Good.
know,
I was
so-
hoping you guys
yeah,
got enough
no,
food.
we
Yeah.
did.
I got tapas for the first time. And
That's
I think that was one of the best tapas I'll ever have.
Yeah.
Like, it was right away like a hit.
Yeah, well, sorry, and I was stealing food off your plate too.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
See, we were.
Oh,
see,
man.
look at us.
We
Look-
served all these tostadas from him. So you take
Yeah.
the bread slice, you toast it. Then we did the pan con tomate. So you're putting like a fresh tomatoes that we got from you, onto the bread. And that has a little olive oil and garlic. Real simple flavors. I mean, the Spanish
but
food.
It wasn't simple. It was
What-
amazing.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing with some of the best things in life. They are simple, and if we kind of slow down enough and really enjoy those, it's enough. To be rich in salmon right now is awesome. We're sharing with all our friends. We're bagging up. We're like, we can't wait to
neighborly.
have people enjoy.
It's all about
Same
being
with
neighbors.
tomato season. Same with all these things. We're so rich in abundant things that we don't always really take for what they are, and things become taken for granted. And I think that's a big thing in the food world, that if we could really focus on the quality over quantity, and I think that's where a culture like they have in Spain, or they have in Italy and Japan and lots of places that really revere their food, it's all tied together. Being a fisherman is a great part of the system. Being a farmer is a great part of the system, to feed people, to care for people. And that's really.
But it's crazy though too.
What more do we have?
What I'm talking about is like, I heard this so this podcast that I listened to was all talking about his mental health of what he did before versus why he's a beekeeper, and he actually is for business now, and it's a mental health, and he's like, I'm so stressed differently, but I love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like he was. He had PTSD. He's a vet from Desert Storm,
war, yeah.
and so. But then he got into the, big American world of work, and then his PTSD hit him to the point where he couldn't work. So then he was like, why can't I'm always fascinated in bees, and he's
What can he do to simplify
What can he do to simplify?
life?
And I taught a bee class this weekend at Hambley
nice.
Farm. at
Oh, nice.
Lavender Farm, and I'm sitting here teaching, and that's where my reflection came in this class, in this podcast was, looking back at the last 6 months, I'm realizing I'm out teaching again a lot, but I'm also realizing that my own mental health is stronger because I'm back in the soil, and I'm able to not just worry about business. I'm actually worried about more about my animals or my plants or our processing
the
plant,
greater good.
or being able to be there available to be able to answer these questions for the people that are using our processing plant, or the people that are coming to Nature's Touch to pick up, because I'm trying to get that fear of wonder. There are people who hear these media bites, right? And this media information. Look at what we're doing, right? We're getting out and we're marketing, yes, because we have to make money in order to keep things going. Making money is not a bad thing.
No.
But at the end of the day, where is the balance of what we're doing we actually really enjoy?
Yeah.
And, does it have to, give us, all this luxury or all this, material things? No. It doesn't. It needs to actually fulfill us. It needs to make joy in what we do. And I'm realizing, I've seen some of your work. I kept driving down your friend's from her restaurant. I kept driving.
Street to our
and
job
I saw,
site?
yes, I saw your
Yay.
job site.
Oh,
and I'm
glad.
like, but I didn't, can I
Great
tell
little
you,
garden and
can I
farm
tell
we
you, I
made.
didn't even need to know it was your job site. I looked at it and went, that looks like some it was Josh's, because I saw
our
his trailer.
trailer.
And I'm like, okay, so I know what you do, and you do beautiful work. But I have to tell you, no matter how stressed you were in that kitchen, you could tell how happy you were because we
Yeah.
all tasted it.
Yeah.
And I hear you talk about wanting to do more food. And I'm at that stage where I want to eat good food, but I want to produce food again.
Yeah.
Where I love being in the kitchen, I do, and it was fun kind of helping you
Yeah,
do
you
your
did.
thing. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to do this ever again.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's great is we each get to do the different parts, right?
Yes.
Like same with fishing. We can't have everyone
Yes.
on the water. Some people that want to go out there, get sunburned, get salty, get their back broken
How
on
about
deck.
this?
Then
I was trying to be a producer of my own podcast, but it was boring, and I was also not getting the details. And I love how I just reached out to Miguel, and he makes it so much. And honestly, Miguel too. I'm super grateful that you came down to Osos and did this with Josh and I. But I had fun just rolling things off with you and talking about the podcast, talking about what Josh is, talking about family, right? We are family. But guess what? We're neighbors.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to see all of us in our trials and tribulations, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we had a moment of peace to reflect of what we really enjoy. And you can tell you love doing this and doing what you're doing because you're happy in it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about, necessarily, we all have to make money, but we have to also enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's that triple bottom line I always talk about. It's like you got your environmental, social, and economic payoff. So in money, dollars and cents, in every business, intrinsically, needs to make money to stay afloat. And every person needs to have some kind of currency and trade. But also, that social bottom line is huge.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be fulfilled. I was so happy to be making food, from my friends and neighbors to my friends and neighbors, and then have those friends and neighbors, make music, which I can't do that and be in the kitchen and be eating. So
I didn't know.
we all have our roles.
I'm North County, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know your friend that owned the restaurant, right?
Sure.
I didn't know all the things that you did until I went there.
Yeah.
I mean, she was closed. Did your pop-up in there?
Yeah,
And-
I've just known her since high school, so it happened to be she's started this business in the last few years. We've always been friends. She's always been in the food sort of service
I'm going to
industry.
make the
and-
effort to go to Osos to go eat from her too. You know what I mean?
She's a great, chef and a great place that she put together for our community where if I want, pizza and beer, I come home at the end of a day like this where I'm already tired.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I could go down there and be taken care of.
That's awesome.
And then that's how our whole pop-up spurred was just us talking about it. And she's like, wow, I'm really tired of having so many days in the kitchen. I was like, well, I'll come over. Let's take over a day. Let's make some money on your day off.
And that's the thing.
know,
It's
it's fun.
it's not everybody needs to do this or be like this or how, it's just having that option and being creative and having something different. That's what we were hearing in the crowd because
Okay,
Miguel and I
okay.
sat in the little corner
Yeah.
eating your amazing food, but we did it just because it was like, come on, let's just hang out for a second before we drive back over the
Yeah,
grade.
yeah.
And we were hearing it. People were commenting on how good the food was, but they were also commenting that it was Monday and it was super fun to just have something different
Yeah.
and have something Monday
To gather, just to have a time.
and it wasn't like
do
a
that.
party. It was just like they all were getting off work at different times, and it was like a decompression time.
Yeah, well, that's a huge thing. I think for me, I've seen some of those cultures, like from, like we said, Spain, Italy, all these places where, you're going to work hard 8 to 5 here, at least 5 to 9. Some of those days where you need that decompression for your own mental health, see some friends out, maybe listen to music, have a drink, have a bite, something that really is
And I
fulfilling and,
think they
nourishing.
liked it
in
because
many
they didn't
ways.
know what to expect.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's also kind of what threw Miguel
I
and
like
I.
that.
Like, we're like, I'll be honest with you. I knew a lot, but I didn't know all of it.
Yeah.
And I was, kind of go. Miguel's like, "What is this? I don't know. Let's eat it." And then you tell me
Yeah,
what.
first thing I said is like, is this a pop-up?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was his restaurant.
Yeah, he didn't know. So I'm like,
The
I don't know. Let's
dishwasher
go for
kids
it.
that work for my friend at the end of the night, they're like, "What restaurant do you work?" I'm like, "I'm a landscaper, bro."
Yeah, he lays in the dirt. You know.
That's out in the field every day. But I worked in the kitchens fair. My family had restaurants, so that's why I'm so connected to food. I think food is a great
But the
political
thing is
vehicle too.
it's also too because I realize this also too, just kind of reflecting, right?
Yeah.
Is the fact that you and I grow food all the time.
Yeah.
You and I and I'm producing food, whether it be with my hands or I'm consulting with somebody else. I'm growing food all the time, right? And I've dabbled in the kitchen. I know my health code laws and
Yeah.
it's like nobody's business. That's why I consult. But at the same time, I'm realizing though, like, why am I able to like teach or be a part of this? It's because I'm around it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to be in the kitchen cutting it up, but I'm smelling it, I'm seeing it, I'm experiencing
Well,
it.
everything's a
and
cycle, right? Everything's
it's
a
all
loop.
cycle.
You think about that just naturally, like here's the oxygen cycle, here's the water cycle, right? There's these natural ways.
all a
Everything
cycle.
goes back into itself. So with food, it's really fun to see each sort of sector and part of it. And so when we're producing the food, like I love going out hunting the mushrooms, hunting the in the ocean and in the hills, whatever
I like
it takes.
looking at what we have
But-
and getting creative with what we have.
Yeah, cooking it is a whole nother part of it. And a lot of times people don't necessarily see, the value in each step. And so it's like, oh, it's really awesome to even take something like the salmon, from the ocean, really gorgeous, beautiful fish, beautiful place for me to be out on the water, but then bring that home, put it into, steaks or fillets, something that someone really can be nourished from. And I think that's what, butchers and bakers and, farmers, everyone's doing something where, not everybody has the time or ability to go out and plant and harvest, but everyone needs to eat every day.
The
So
thing
we
is,
share
it's
that
like,
part.
That's a normal part of our lives too. Not everybody's supposed to do everything. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, I feel for people that put the perception or those expectations on themselves that they have to be a certain, fit in the box kind of mentality, right? My own inner being of being competitive within myself and pushing myself to my expectations are hard enough. But then when I would think to put myself in an expectation of what I'm supposed to be, or, I'm supposed to have that job, or I'm supposed to be that wife, or I'm supposed to be that mother, or I'm supposed to be that business owner. Like, that's a lot but yet when we actually get to sit back and go, this is who I am, and this is what, I don't need to do everything because I have a community that at times I can get a decompression moment
Yeah.
because I get to hang out with really good people.
Yeah. I mean, no one's an island, right? We're a socially dependent species, just even
Yeah.
scientifically speaking. So really we look for that and, to care for ourselves, does take a village.
And at the same time, that is nature too, because
Yeah.
I
Well, that's
also
our
started
nature, yeah.
talking about where we are in why I'm reflecting, because summer solstice is coming,
Yeah.
right? And what does that mean for us? That means it's the longest day of the year, and then after that, the days start getting shorter. But as a beekeeper, as a farmer, realistically, I get more excited for the winter solstice because that is the shortest day of the year, and it starts getting longer after that, right?
It's the bleak of hope.
Yeah, it's that rebuilding, right? Winter solstice brings in that promise of rebirth,
Yeah.
regrowth, we're coming up out. Where summer solstice is all about the full day, right? But then it's also resending. It's going back within, getting ready for that winter season, right? To recapture everything that we have done, all the energy that we have
Yeah,
captured,
you know the days are
and pull
numbered
it back in.
and it's coming back again.
We're gonna.
I love both solstices, you know?
And I
All times of year are
respect
great.
all of it, but at the same time, it's for me, summertime is all about making sure that I get to float a long enough time, and be in the water and
Yeah.
enjoy the warmth. I mean, the summer season is the best eating, the best mineral, the best sugar intake, the best amino acid. There's nothing better than the summer season to capture all our nourishment.
Summertime and the living's
Summertime,
easy.
so
I
it's
love
that
summer.
time. I was telling everybody
Yeah.
that we have pickling cucumbers right now.
Yeah.
Because we're early season for those people that want to pickle before it gets too hot.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited. We all put it in the ground and put the hoop house over it, and so we captured that heat inside of it. So that's why we have pickles right now. This is what I'm saying. So then when it's really hot, I don't have to be in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'll do my late season jams and jellies and, capturing my summer
All your
crop for the
fruit,
winter
yeah.
stuff, So this is like becoming the best time of the year, but it's also reflecting of where we came from and what we're going to do this next 6 months.
It's because it's my birthday next week, so I think that's why everyone's celebrating.
That's
getting
what
excited.
it is. And that's why
always
we're going to
wondered.
celebrate the summer solstice. What day?
The 15th.
Oh, okay.
So like you said, that middle part of the
But it's
year,
next
middle
Monday.
day. Okay.
Right?
Somewhere. It's Sunday.
Yeah. Sunday.
Father's Day.
Sunday. Oh.
Father's Day, my birthday. I'm going to have
See,
2
you're
parties.
that's why you and I get along. So normally Mother's Day is somewhere close to my birthday.
Yeah.
So I'm the mother, you're the father. See, we got this. And
We
your
got you
birthday-
guys.
Wait,
We're all one big family.
do you want to share how old you're going to be?
I
No?
think it's 47 this year.
Oh, you're still younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Getting up there.
No, you haven't catched me. I'm still older than both of you.
Yeah.
Dang it. Well, in my mind, I think I'm still younger, so that's all good.
That's what it
But
counts.
it's
Age
all
is
about-
just a number.
Well, I'm excited. Well, happy birthday on
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day to
Yeah, it's
your
gonna be fun.
2 beautiful girls.
Yeah.
So yeah, and honestly, like, it's so funny that you're even talking about that because when I taught this bee class this Saturday, I was teaching people the concept of the hive, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to be?
Oh, their roles are really
Do you want to be a queen?
diligent.
Do you want to be a worker? Do you want to be a guard? Or do you want to be a drone?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, "Oh, I want to be the queen." I'm like, laying 10,000 eggs and being
A lot of
being
responsibility.
forced to be fat.
Yeah.
And all you do is you have to decide what egg you're gonna lay, so to make your hive, your colony balanced. And they're like, okay, well then a worker. I'm like, well then you have no genitalia, and all you do is work.
work,
You're
work.
born to work, and that's all you do until you die.
Could be a drone bee, I think.
Well, I was gonna say, or do you want to be a drone? You get a bigger egg, not as big as a queen. You get a bigger egg, and you're cared for, you're pampered, and all you get to do is wait for the flyby queens to breed her.
yeah.
That's all you do.
Yeah, making the next generation
That's all,
happen.
and carrying on that hive's genetics. That's all you have to do. And you get fed and you get taken care of. I think my husband thinks he is a drone, but I have to remind him all the time that's not what, no.
There's no king
He
bee,
wants
I
me
guess.
to queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants me to take care of them. But that's all a drone has to do. And
Yeah.
it was kind of funny because I was saying, as a beekeeper, we get to decide how many drones are hatched, So we're teaching that, and understanding, what do you want to come back to as a hive? And and understanding every part, every job serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And it's and without it, it doesn't balance.
Exactly,
And
right?
so, it doesn't necessarily need to be that drone is there taking care of everything, but it served that purpose. And so I'm excited to always teach it. And it's super fun to teach the introductory because so many people don't realize, the whole thing. And a lot of people still get yellow jackets mixed up with bees.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, no, those are just jerks with wings. That's not a bee, and that's
a great title for it.
going. Those things are all about decay. Making sure, that's what, they do serve a purpose. I'm not going to sit here and say, do away with it. No, you got to understand what it is. Their sole purpose is to be born to eat rot.
Yeah.
And so if you have yellow jackets, that means you have something rotting. And everybody thinks rot is compost. No, it's not. Rot is something that is not being managed. Rot is something that needs oxygen, it needs moisture, it needs to be opened up, and it needs an activator? Is it soil that's
Well,
going
the
to activate?
cycle needs to be completed,
The
like we
cycle
talked
needs
about.
to be complete.
You can't grow the next crop without the last crop rotting.
And if
you
it
know, turning into
smells, it's
soil.
rot.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well,
not
I think
compost.
that's a good point. I think society, people, maybe nowadays they think like, oh, we can get away with certain things we never have to deal with again. But like you said, jerks with wings is part of it. You know, they're in there with drunk
They'll
uncles.
bite you and sting you, you know? So
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said of understanding what it is. And so that class this weekend was super fun. I can't say enough about Gina Hambly and Milton Hambly of Hambly Lavender Farm in San Miguel. It's crazy to see, you know, San Miguel, you know, that open, you know, used to have
Plain.
oak trees on
Yeah.
it, but you know, now it's this rangeland, and to see their farm come to fruition, it's in an age that the lavender
Yeah,
is
lavender's
like
beautiful.
pushing. Yeah. Oh, and they said
Those farms.
5,000. Don't quote me because I can't remember, but 5,000 plants now.
Mm.
And they do a wide range of different varieties, so they have a staggered growth.
Yeah.
So it's stunning, and they have a place at a classroom that's overlooking the lavender field. Super fun. Like I was
Happy
like, I went
bees.
to work, but I was actually having more fun than working. So, you know, and I'm just honored that she chose me.
Yeah.
You know, she chose me in many ways. I helped consult. I'm the one I always
Yeah, I know
tell.
you guys have been in here together
Yeah,
and stuff.
but I consulted that. They hired me and said, "What do I do with this?"
Oh,
They had
hooray.
just brought
Nice.
that property, and
So you get
I
to see
looked.
the full circle there.
Yeah, because I looked at the whole concept: the soil, the water, the wind, the location,
Yeah,
the
what
heat.
would be a
you
good
know?
fit.
And it came to fruition, and I that's one of my proud moments. I have a lot of them, but that was one of my big proud moments, and the fact that I grew up with them. I grew up with Gina.
Yeah.
So there's a lot with that too. So I'm just again honored that she chose me, honored that I got to be a part of it, and now I have this range of new people again that are interested. I do these classes, I think, at times to walk in to change the mind of the student. You know, people think that you put a hive in a yard or a hive in a garden and you get to walk away from it sometimes. And I define the class at the very beginning as just envision, you know, then I ask them all about chickens. Do they understand, you know, how, you know, chickens are important, that you have food and water every day.
You got to go there every day. Yeah.
You have to go there every day. But imagine having 10,000 Banty roosters. And that's what a beehive is. They're all out to get
Busy
you.
bees, yeah.
And so, you know, that's how I start the class. So I go there with the incentive to maybe talk people out of that concept of how easy could it be. You know, I give reality in that class, and it was super fun because we got into conversations that I forget, you know, about, you know, the drift spray, the neighbors, you know, beeline, making sure that you don't put your bee box and the opening of your bee box directed at your neighbor.
Yeah.
Unless you don't like your neighbor, you know, because it's, you know, but you don't do that. That's
so
not
many
right.
parts to something
So many parts
that
to
seems
it.
so simple.
Yes. And
doing it well. I think that's the other side. When things look easy or, you know, that from the outside, it just means that there's really someone's sort of love or ability, proficiency in providing that part. And if we're all really doing something that we love, you know, like they say, you never work a day in your life. So
Yep. And I feel that way at a lot of times.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Last week was one of your Monday made for the week though. But
Perfect.
the
That's why I
moment
was
I
hoping
left,
that Monday.
but then
yeah.
I left, and then that week became and I'm like, no, I'm done. You know, so it was definitely a mental challenged week, and those are hard on me. I don't like the
mentally
mental.
tired is always a little bit more exhausting than even physically tired. I feel a lot of times, and
Yeah.
a lot of days where it's both. You're getting,
Yeah.
you know, out there every day in the field, and then you know you got to deal with a lot of other components, and you know
Yep.
it really gets challenging. But I think that's what makes us grow, and that's the thing. Like again, just like we said, you got to have yellow jackets in the world. You kind of don't know the good without the bad, so we
Yep.
got to have those
Gotta
moments
understand the
that really
purposes of things.
flow and give us that kind of cycle and circle. So
Yeah.
here we are
know.
back full circle from
So,
last week.
Any pop-ups coming up in the near future?
Yeah, you know, I think that my friend who owns the restaurant got really excited. She's like, wow, this is great. I can't believe how much response and just really fun. And she really, for her own mental health too, she's like, wow, this
Give
could
her a
be
boost.
something
She
where,
was super cool.
yeah, she's a great person, great friend. And so, yeah, Sarah down at Hazard's Restaurant, closed on Monday's her only day. But I think if she has, an event once or twice a month like that, like through the summer season, it just happened to be perfect where we can use the outdoor patio space we built now for, more people to gather
This is your
on.
time because all us North County people want to go there.
Sure, yeah,
It's
out of
going
the
to get
heat.
hot. We're going to
So
go there.
I think she can still have a couple of days off a month. She could, make some money on those other days, and just, she had a great time serving. And my friend Lorena Gomez that was from Spain. That was kind of her impetus to say, let's have a Spanish night. And I said, okay, I can make the food around
Community.
that. So, those two ran the front, we ran the back, and I think everyone did have a great
people.
time.
I'm just going to disclose. We had a couple people that had heard us talk about it, and also social media. That's
Good.
why they our
very
social
cool.
media is why they showed up. So I was like, they didn't know who Miguel was,
doesn't
and they're
work.
like, oh, we saw it on Instagram, so we came. I'm all,
He's the man behind the curtain.
yeah, he is like, yeah, no. So we're
He likes to
definitely,
like that.
no, it was fun. So I'm looking forward to another one.
Yeah, I think we really want to do that.
I'm
and-
excited because I've had not just there, but I've had a lot of people reaching out. I have Central Coast Trees that wants to come and be a part, talk
Yeah.
about trees.
Yeah.
I have some really cool people reaching
Great.
out. So I'm excited to see Nature's Neighbor really coming to its fruition and really
Yeah,
growing.
the
in
neighborhood
this,
growing.
the neighborhood growing. And so thank you for, we're getting to that time. Thank you for making it over the grade and prying you away from your fish trimmings.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you for my gift. I can't wait. I'll report back next week because
Very
my
good.
boys will definitely enjoy that, and my daughter will definitely enjoy that. And thank you for sharing. I focus so much on the soil, right? And I forget about the ocean. The ocean speaks volumes. We only see the surface,
Yeah.
but it speaks volumes. And you just communicated with the ocean.
Yeah, well,
the
everything
same.
ends up in the ocean pretty much.
Right?
And especially, I've always grew up around the ocean. So, we see it. And it's like, if I want to go play in the water, I don't want to have all this, pollution and things ending up in the ocean. And if I want to eat from the ocean, the same thing. We want things to be, clean
Healthy.
and healthy and productive. And it is funny because it's a whole nother world. I mean, we're just always floating on the doorstep of the ocean. You have no idea what's going on under there. And then once you see it, diving or just other things. I mean, there's just new stuff explored all the time.
The whole world, is just
the oceans do so much for us.
And it's a
blue planet.
I know that we have some people that are listening to our podcast that are in the Central Valley. I have a couple now that are reaching
great.
out from the Midwest.
Ah, cool.
And so, but I have to giggle because we talk about. I got somebody from the Midwest. I know who this person is. They used to live here, and then she told me she wasn't going to listen to us anymore if we keep talking about how wonderful the weather is and how good the food tastes.
We can't help it. We live
Sorry.
in secret paradise. We're not supposed to talk about how good
now we're
it
going to
is,
talk
though.
about ocean because I know she's a big fish eater.
Oh, wow.
So she's going to be so thrilled. Ha ha. So, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's again, we are grounded, and I'm honored and proud to be from this area. I am willing
Yeah.
to work and be continuously better than I was. And so that is what this is about, is sharing. And just because she's in the Midwest, I know her soil too. I've helped her with her soil, Kentucky. So I've helped her there. Like, okay, you're colder, you're, wetter at times, let's figure out what we can do. And she's several years into the making now, but we're getting there.
I mean, everywhere's naturally beautiful and everything
Yeah.
has so much to offer in the world. And each place is so unique that I really feel it's like great to have like local pride. And that way, you have that regional pride and you go and visit every region.
Yeah.
And then those people that are there hosting you, they get to show off what's great about their place. And so that's just kind of what we are here for. We
crazy.
are,
The connectors.
yeah, just the welcome wagon,
Mm-hmm.
for the Central Coast, being here so long and loving all the parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're really great.
Talking food, family, farming, and home. Home always being the Central Coast of California. And family doesn't necessarily always mean you have to be blood. Josh is family to me, but we're not blood. We've just been such close friends for many years. And
Just have
walking
to care for people. I mean,
yes,
that's
we cared about
like
each
they are
other
your
and
family.
respect each other.
Yeah.
But walking into your kitchen, walking into the Hazard Restaurant kitchen, and just watching like how you were operating, and I giggle because how can you not be a part of something like we just came back together, but I just walked in and was a part, and we just all clicked.
Yeah, you jumped in right away. I was like, please, thank you.
Yeah, and Shawnee,
Do
washed
this,
my
do that.
hands, pulled my hair back, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" No, what are you doing here? Kind of. That was
Yeah,
so
that
much
was
fun.
fun.
I will carry for a long
Great.
time. So, thank you for
Till
that.
next time.
Until next time, we'll be
See
back
you then.
next Monday. Can't tell you who's a guest yet, but tune into our social media and we'll put it all out there.
Did we say sponsors Nature's Touch? And I heard Crescent Valley at the beginning.
I did. I've been
Oh,
talking,
Nature's
but
Touch.
I
Give it up.
gotta give my sponsors. So Crescent Valley Meats, our
that
USDA
too.
processing plant. We are your USDA human grade food source, meat source, but we're also a pet food supplier too. I have hundreds of recipes on our website that we can be feeding your animals as well.
yeah.
So let me know. Check us out, CrescentValleyMeats.com. And then, of course, Nature's Touch Nursery and Harvest.store is my website. Thank you, Miguel. This is without these two businesses, I wouldn't be today who I am.
That's how I know you, was coming from by the shop. So having that edge, and then,
So it's 17 years at the current location. Then I was a 9.5 at the previous location. This is crazy, huh? Like that doesn't even seem real to say those kind of ages. So again, and then I do have naturesneighbor.net purchased
For the swag, right?
and where you can buy our t-shirts. I'm not wearing it today because I was dirty earlier. So, Nature's Neighbor we have t-shirts, sweatshirts and stuff. So naturesneighbor.net, the store is up on that. But then also all of our previous podcasts will be there as well. So
Great.
You can always check us out on all the social media platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You could just Google us now. You can find us now.
It's getting better with
Google
age.
me,
Here we go.
and so you can find it. But at the same time, you can check out our website. And just remember, if you support swag at naturesneighbor.net, you're not only supporting Josh and I on this podcast, you're also helping us support Miguel as well.
And everyone else we're connected to.
Oh my gosh, everybody else. My dream would be that we create this local swag and be able to put, show topics on a show and have, that business, us, and the topic that we talked about, and then be able to walk out in the world with our apparel on. So it's a dream. We'll get there,
Keep dreaming.
and hey, that's what I do every day. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. Josh,
night.
thank you. Bye.
Yeah.